To this business report, and just before the break I did say that we're going to be looking at the Enugu poster ban, basically its effects on businesses and revenue generation in the state. You know, it's reported that the Enugu state structures for signages and advertisement agency ENSA had announced a ban on the unlawful pasting of posters on outdoor surfaces and spaces across the state. According to the agency, individuals, organizations, and businesses must obtain written approval before displaying those posters or risk fines of up to 50 million naira. Now, while government sees this as a move to regulate public space usage, some residents, particularly those in the printing industry, have raised concerns about its impact. Now, the real question really is, what alternatives have been put in place? How will this development affect small and medium enterprises? Now, this will form the basis of our conversation today. And joining me on this conversation right here in the studio is none other than Emeka Odom, who is a journalist, a development communication strategist, and a public affairs analyst. It's good to have you join me. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I'm glad you are here also. It's been ages I saw you. Okay, quickly, before we get into this conversation, we will be looking at the report that was put together by Afia TV on this particular issue. Let's take a look at, of course, how Enugu residents reacting to this particular development real quickly.
Led by General Manager Francis Anenwike, prohibits the unauthorized posting of posters on outdoor surfaces to curb the facing of the state. The agency insists that the measure aligns with the ENSA law of 2016, empowering it to regulate outdoor advertising. While some agree with the need for regulation, others argue that the policy is too restrictive and will negatively impact businesses. A printer, Uguchijoke, believes the policy is not entirely a bad idea, but suggests that it should only apply to large-sized posters.
The idea is not totally bad when it has to do with some unnecessary pasting of posters. But telling us that you want to stop pasting of any kind of poster, especially that of burial, I don't know. We are Igbos and we value these burial rights. So if you say we shouldn't, if someone who is bereaved, I want to tell people that maybe one of his own is dead by pasting poster, he say he has to pay before he will now paste that poster somehow. But if it is pasting of large quantity of poster, like church programs that print a lot of them, then it's understandable, which I know it is not now that I've been doing it. Like my church, if we want to have program, we go to Eswama, we pay before we paste posters. It has been on for a long while. But if you want to victimize somebody who is bereaved that he pasted a poster of his dead one, and I will now come to the burial ground to arrest somebody, you should check it now. You are a human being and you are an Igbo person as well. So if we are making policies, let there be a clause so that you can exempt some certain case scenarios. I think it will be okay.
Similarly, Collins suggests that instead of outright restrictions, the government should designate specific areas where people can paste posters freely, rather than requiring payment for every advertisement.
So while they are trying to regulate the amount of posters that people see, they can actually make rules or make designated areas where people would come and post posters instead of, tasking people to pay before they post posters. So that's my opinion on it.
For Ebuchi Debere, a printer, the directive poses a financial threat to businesses like his. He argues that the printing industry already pays taxes to the government, and this additional regulation could reduce patronage and affect their livelihood.
That law that the government has enacted will adversely affect, the poor masses who may not be able to afford the payment, for the personal posters. Again, it will equally affect us because we need to pay tax to government, and we need to make money. From the money we make, we have to pay our tax to government. So government should, consider the interest of the poor masses, and also the interest of we, the printing companies, that pay tax.
As the enforcement continues, stakeholders in the printing and advertising industries continue to call for adjustments that balance urban cleanliness with business sustainability. In Enugu, Gospel Promise reporting for Afia TV.
Fulfill that report, and let's get back into this conversation. Let's hear my guests with me and make our dome seated. And first, before we get into anything and talk about anything from that video, what are your thoughts on this, first and foremost?
All right, thank you so much. For me, it's not so much an out of place legislation. Everywhere, even both Nigeria and outside this country, it's normal for government to regulate, issues of this nature from different perspectives. One, from the angle of environmental protection. When you mount posters everywhere, you litter the environment. You create a very obscene, environment, and that is not good enough. I'm not aware of any state in Nigeria that does not have regulation in the area of signage and advertising. If you go to the Federal Capital Territories, in fact, not long ago, when I was in the FCT, I had something to do, and so they came, and we had to sort things out, In Lagos, they are there. In Imo State, there. In many other states, across Nigeria, they are all there. However, where I have my issues on this is that, number one, if you look at the Enugu State structures for signage and advertising, that law, that's the law that the notice, is trying to quote. I think it's law number 12 of 2016 or thereabout. If you go through that law, I am not quite sure that if you contravene that particular section they are talking about, that the penalty is up to 15 million naira.
Exactly.
So we need to get that very clearly. Is that 15 million? Is that what the law itself recommends or that being prescribes, or is the amount now an imposition by the agency itself? So these are the things. If it is the agency that has imposed this particular amount, upon contravention of this law, we need to know to the extent of that inconsistency. But that's, I'm sure that is not so much of a problem. If they have imposed an amount that that's strange to what the law has prescribed, I'm sure that the court of law will take care of all those. However, beyond that, yes, one may argue that like the man who is a printer, was seeing it from the angle of his own business. Yes, if you look at it from your own business, because printing of posters has become a very big business for the people in the printing industry, and so the more you ban people from printing those, because when people print posters, they are not printing them for decorations in their houses. They are not printing them for keeps. They are printing them for
information dissemination,
display.
Yes,
and so when you stop them from displaying it publicly, over time the business of printing will go. That poster printing will go down, and so that will definitely affect those who are in that industry. So it's okay. He's seeing it from that angle, but when we talk about issues of public interest, you don't just see it from one perspective, from the perspective or from the interest of those who are in that business. It's very important that the government, does the right thing. Number one is, you see, if you say people shouldn't put posters everywhere, which is understandable, which is okay for the sake of the environment, now it's also not bad to designate a particular area.
Exactly the point I was coming
that people can go and put their posters. Now then, if you see somebody, just like bus stops, if you say, look, commercial buses or commercial transport operators don't stop anywhere, you must provide designated bus stops where people can stop.
Exactly.
So, but if you have not provided an alternative, then I do not know whether you have the right to punish people when they create those, leeway for themselves. That is number one. Number two is, now, if you also come out to say that people should not put posters everywhere, what is your reason for saying so? If the reason is for decency of the environment, then why are you telling them that they should come and take permission? Is it that they should come and take permission to desecrate the environment? Because if the reason is, look, don't put posters there, it's very obscene to deface this place. Because most of those places, government spends money to beautify the place, and people spend money to paint their walls, and you know, for instance, if it's a place where you have a lot of all these, you know, flyovers and things like, the pillars constitute a major attraction for those who paste posters. And now, if government paints all of those places to beautify the place by painting them, and you come and put post on them, you are defacing it. You know, now you can't still tell people to come and obtain permission.
To deface
it, because when people are coming to take that permission, we are in Nigeria. The truth of the matter is that you're just asking them to come and pay money. When they are coming to obtain that permission, you are going to ask them to pay money. So they now pay you money to deface the place. And
the sole aim and purpose is defeated.
Yeah, the sole aim and purpose is defeated. So these are the kind of so when government agencies make, you know, laws and come and announce it in a public place, they need to think very deeply, you know, through the lines that they are communicating to people, because people are going to read meanings in all of these things. And so if something is bad, it's bad. If you said, hey, just like when government comes, if you have an express road, a very wide express road, right, and you know it's dangerous to let people cross the main road because of the high volume of fast traffic. Yeah. Now, when you build an overhead, I mean a pedestrian bridge, you can't tell people, if you're going to cross this road, come and take permission. Permission for what? Permission to endanger their lives, or permission to cause, you know, a public obscene? There cannot be any permission, you know, allowable in that kind of situation. So if this is bad, it is bad. If you're going to ban it, you ban it and say, look, this is not allowed outrightly. So he's not asking people to come and take permission. But definitely, people will have to advertise their goods and services. People will have to advertise their programs, and so you create very clear, you know, very clear margins, and give instructions on how these things ought to be done.
Now, that reminds me, you said something, and I had written it down here, was I was going to ask you. Now, I for one, I see an opportunity, business opportunity here, because you say people should not put posters anyhow. There is a possibility of businesses springing up. Let me give you an instance. In Lagos, which you mentioned earlier, you would see a whole lot of billboard spaces.
Big what?
Billboard. Yes. Billboard spaces,
Yes.
a whole lot.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, if you're driving, you would see it's everywhere.
Yes.
You would see the ones just on a wall, for instance. So posters are not allowed there, but you could put something larger there. Yeah. So I think much more than the fact that something is being banned, there's an opportunity opening up. But the question really is, these particular businesses who are affected directly, do they have the capacity to transition?
That is what the issue is. That's what the issue is. You see, again, also, that also calls to question, and directly, you know, puts the business of public governance on the hot seat. Now, the thing is, government agencies also should be able to, because when we talk about a very organized society, government agencies should suggest to people, provide, when we talk about provision of alternatives, suggest to people how they can solve this problem. Right? Now, if you say, look, don't do this, this is not good enough, give them reasons why this is not good enough, and suggest alternatives to them. Now, what we just talked about, there are several opportunities that can replace the paper posters and the indiscriminate pasting of banners. And there are several opportunities. Now, you pointed one of them. One of the challenges there is that those that are businesses that are below the line, can they really afford this transition? Can they play at this league? Because see, the truth is that the billboards are there, and the electronic even the wooden billboards and the metal billboards are being replaced by electronic billboards in most cities. But yet, it's not everybody that can do that. Now, encourage people by suggesting alternatives. Let people know that, look, if the whole objective is to push your narrative out to the people, let people know, create awareness, there are alternatives. There are a good number of them that can be explored. That could even be far cheaper. Now, for instance, I know very well that there are strategic locations where we may not have seen it here, but it exists elsewhere. In some other places, you have a very big electronic billboard, what you call digital, display. Now, those who are managing that process, the owners of that digital board could sell bits and pieces of it. It's because it's electronic. It goes in seconds, just like you can pay for 55 seconds ad on it, pay for 1 hour, 1 minute, pay for 30 seconds, and whatever you can afford, and how many times it can display in a day. Sometimes you find out that one display on that let's say 40 seconds display on that billboard at a very strategic location could be even cheaper than the banners and posters that you are printing. And it could be not only cheaper, it could be far more effective.
More effective, yeah.
So these are things that we should. My worry is, agencies of this nature, they're actually a specialized agency where you should have professionals, who will add value to that kind of government business.
Consult for and advise.
Exactly. That's just it. And so when you are now when you are not coming up with this kind of ban, this kind of regulation, the people don't see it as being punitive. They see it as a revolution that will ultimately produce a better result for them. Because if people realize that, look, this poster, because I grew up in Lagos. That's a compound word. Good. Now I understand what it means to administer business of poster. Now when you print, you want to hire boys who will go around the city to paste this. And look, sometimes you contract it out.
It's contracted.
The contractor has a group of boys that will work for him. And there are all kinds of middlemen along the line. It's very expensive.
It is.
If you really want it to make an impact, it's very expensive. But you can let people know that, look, if you're going to spend 500,000 naira on this, you could spend lesser and far more, if more and more people will know about this event you're trying to publicize. And over time, they will go to know that you're telling them the truth and you're helping their business. And they will no longer see this kind of legislation as harsh.
So in other words, there's also the place of advocacy needed.
That's what I mean by...
Because clearly, not much has been done.
That's what I mean by agency of this nature has to be, populated by professionals. It's just like, unfortunately, in this part of the world, we don't see things from the professional perspective. Look, agencies of this nature, these are core advertising people that should be here, and all kinds of communications people, different areas of communication, so that they add more value. Because whether you like it or not, there are people who see this as another tax.
Yes, it's written here, but we don't have the time to look at it, because clearly, some people say there was an argument that is it more of trying to make the environment or Enugu cleaner or more orderly, or a function of creating another avenue for taxation?
Because I do not think, I'll have to check this out, but I do not think that law actually prescribes 50 million.
No, it's not up to.
So where did the 50 million come from? I know you want to dissuade people from doing it, but you must be within the ambit of the law.
Right. I think this is a good place to leave this conversation. Thank you so much, Emeka, for coming. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
In case you're just joining in, this is the site of the podcast today on the Eastern Business Report, and we've been talking about the Enugu postal ban, effects on businesses, revenue generation. I played host to Emeka Odom, development communication strategies, and public affairs analyst. You may want to follow and join in the conversation on our dedicated Afia YouTube channel. It's displayed right there on the screen. Okay, and well, that's it. Thank you for your time once, twice, and a million more times. My name is Ubon Kings. Coming up next is Afia. Good morning.